Good day, all. This is Justin Cole. I am the Senior Regulatory Compliance Advisor for the Continuity Division of Mitratech, representing our Regulatory Operations Center team. Welcome to our RegFacts briefing for the month of September 2023, where we cover the more significant regulatory releases impacting our United States financial institutions' compliance. First off, the FDIC issued a financial institution letter to remind institutions to update their equal housing lender poster based on the final rule that became effective June 23, 2023. The final rule mentions that the name of the FDIC office to receive complaints was changed, and also that there was an addition of a web address for a complaint portal requiring updates to the poster. Institutions can use their own posters, but may obtain model posters from the FDIC online catalog through FDIC Connect. The FDIC issued another financial institution letter to introduce the banker engagement site that will be launched in September 2023 through FDIC Connect. The BES will be the primary tool for exchanging information and communicating with FDIC examiners in the pre-examination planning stage for consumer compliance and Community Reinvestment Act examinations. The FCA issued an informational memorandum on stress testing. The Farm Credit Administration issued this memo identifying sound principles for establishing a stress testing framework to govern testing activities and using testing as a risk management tool. This issuance rescinds the FCA's stress testing expectations for all FCS institutions, which was dated March 4, 2010, and is primarily based on adapting 8 key principles developed by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. The Farm Credit Administration also in this month updated their exam manual in several areas. Number 1, annual report to the shareholders. Number 2 was structure and use of the manual. And number 3 was overview of exam process. FinCEN issued an important alert during the month on the pig butchering investment scam. This was to warn U.S. financial institutions and the general public about a virtual currency investment scam that is often called pig butchering. It is named as such because it's similar to a farmer fattening up pigs for the slaughter. The scammer grooms potential victims through various types of direct communication in the hopes to gain their trust and quote unquote fatten them up, and then later on slaughters them by stealing all of the funds that they invested into the scam. The FinCEN's alert explains the methodology of the scam and provides associated red flag indicators, of which there were 15 spread amongst the areas of behavioral, financial, and technical. It also provided information on identifying and reporting suspicious activity related to the scam and BSA reporting requirements. Pig butchering is linked to 2 of FinCEN's anti-money laundering / countering the financing of terrorism national priorities, namely fraud and certain types of cybercrime. During the month also, the CFPB updated their small business lending data collection rule, FAQs. The FAQs are now split into 5 sections, being institutional coverage. Within this area, 2 question and answers were updated compared to the June 28, 2023 issuance. The second section is covered credit transactions, of which there were 5 updated Q&As. The next section is small businesses, of which there are 6 Q&As, 2 of which were updated. And another section that was added brand new was on the firewall. This had 7 question and answers in it. And lastly, a totally new section dealing with record retention was also added, which had 2 new question and answers. The CFPB noted that on July 31st, 2023, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas ordered the CFPB not to implement or enforce the small business lending rule against the Texas Bankers Association and the American Bankers Association and their respective members. The ruling stays all deadlines for compliance for these plaintiffs, but does not apply to others who would be subject to the final rule. The FAQ does not address the effects of this or any additional court rulings, So stay tuned for more on developments in that area regarding the lawsuit in the future. Additionally, in the month, the Department of Treasury issued principles for net zero financing and investment. The voluntary principles highlight emerging best practices for private sector financial institutions that have made net zero commitments and promote consistency and credibility in approaches to implementing them. The Federal Reserve, in their September 22nd, 2023 issue of Consumer Compliance Outlook, described examination observations regarding the practice of assessing representment fees and effective methods for mitigating UDAP risks. As many of you are aware, this is a hot topic across the banking community, and the Federal Reserve noted that UDAP violations were cited at several of their supervised institutions related to charging an initial fee when a transaction was presented by a merchant and declined by the bank due to insufficient funds. And then additional fees were charged when the merchant presented the same transaction one or more times after the initial presentment. The article states the institutions can mitigate UDAP risk by not charging a fee after the initial one, by monitoring third-party system settings for how representment is treated, and informing the Federal Reserve if systems are unable to identify such transactions, and making sure that any information presented to the customer, such as disclosures, accurately reflects the policies and practices of the institution for representment. Next up, the National Credit Union Administration updated their simplified CECL tool. This was released as an update for September 2023 and provides a methodology to determine the allowance for credit losses, primarily for institutions with less than $100 million in total assets. Next up, the OCC updated the lease financing booklet within their Comptroller's Handbook series, which discusses risks and risk management practices associated with lease financing. The booklet provides examiners with a framework for examining lease financing activities. The revision of the booklet does not change any existing requirements or impose new ones. The OCC also released their fiscal year 2024 Bank Supervision Operating Plan, which outlines their supervision priorities and aligns with the OCC's strategic plan for the fiscal years 2023 to 2027 and the National Risk Committee's priorities. Lastly, for the month, the FDIC updated their IT risk exam procedures and issued a financial institution letter to distribute and notify institutions of this update. The update does not change existing requirements or impose new ones. Thank you for joining us for the September recording, and we look forward to delivering this series to you again next month. So stay on the lookout for future content here and throughout the Continuity Support Center.